That's the important thing.
Oh my god, May.
I know.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
If anyone's watching. May's just started snoring, so if you hear any
Pig
rumbling,
noises.
pig noises, thunder, it's May. And Rosie is here, sleeping. So we've come to do a live in the middle of the day, which we don't normally do. Because we've noticed a lot of the same things coming up in Facebook posts recently, and one of those things is VBAC and planning a VBAC and all of the barriers that women come up against when they are planning a VBAC. So we wanted to talk about those hurdles and I guess a bit about the fact that a lot of those women will have had caesareans that weren't necessary or may have been traumatic, and what that brings to another birth. So we'll talk a bit about that, and what else? How to avoid those hurdles altogether if you don't want to deal with them.
Yeah, they're not inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to feel like they're inevitable. And they're not.
Damn right. So, where to begin?
At the top of your notes.
At the top of the notes. Okay. Yeah, so firstly, women who are planning to have a vaginal birth after a caesarean have already had an experience of birth that is highly medicalised, whether that was necessary or not, or maybe became necessary because of other interventions. So their experience of birth is not one of birth from a physiological point of view, the way that birth unfolds when it's not interfered with. So that with that is going to come fear and maybe questions that haven't been answered, because we know that debriefs, especially in hospitals with staff who may or may not have been at the birth, they don't answer the questions. They don't give you the answers that maybe you need to process. Oh, jeez.
She's still the phone's on the vibrate.
Oh, sorry, May. What was I saying?
Scared of
Oh,
answers that they might not have and they might be scared of.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, a lot of interventions and caesareans are not explained, and we know that so many of them are unnecessary because the rate of genuine birth emergencies is so small, and that is really the only necessary reason for a caesarean. So the rate at which it is now, the majority of them are not necessary or would not have been necessary had that woman been given more time, more space, patience.
All of our options.
Yeah, all of our options.
All the information.
Mm-hmm. So those unanswered questions then lead to fear, because in society in general, the kind of narrative is that birth is dangerous and that women's bodies just don't work and at some point will need help, medical help. So it's hard to fight against that narrative, especially when all of your experience has been a medicalised birth. Which is why when you're planning a VBAC, recognising that fear and any of those unanswered questions is a really important step, because the fear itself is not, it's not something that you need to get rid of or fix, but being aware of it is something that can help when coercion is being used, because it's when we see coercion in appointments or scans, it plays on emotions and fear. And so when you have lots of unanswered questions and fears that come from those, it's much easier to feel the impact of that coercion. So I think that's an important place to start, really, in processing that, and maybe delving into previous experiences, as difficult as that can be. But it can help to set you off on a different path, because it's easy to fall into that, well, I had a birth plan last time and it didn't go to plan, so I'm just going to go with the flow because birth's so unpredictable. That kind of mindset, and that is where, if you're going with someone else's flow, that's where things go wrong, and it's where you lose control. And so making sure that you're on your own flow and your own terms, and figuring out what is serving you and what isn't, is a great place to start.
And what things you can control.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we think about birth being unpredictable, we think, well, there's nothing I can do because it's birth that's unpredictable, right? But actually, all the things that make birth complicated are things that you do have control over.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the hurdles, they are things that you can control, and things that you can also say no to, or say yes to. And that's the beauty, is that it's your decision. The maternity services should be an opt-in system where you decide what's going to benefit you and you pick and choose. But it isn't presented that way, and it's very difficult to actually get that kind of care, especially if you have had a cesarean before, because you're automatically put on a pathway that treats you differently, and it treats you in a way that actually it doesn't serve normal birth. I mean, I don't think that any of the maternity services really serves normal birth, but especially when you're planning a VBAC, all of the things that would make a normal vaginal birth more likely are taken away, or at least that's what is presented. The options that you're presented with are the ones that limit your movement, they limit your comfort, so it makes no sense to put all of these constraints on women, and it makes the VBAC success rate really low, and that is purely based on the way that those women are treated, and not the fact that they've had a cesarean before.
I want to say something about that, and I'm sorry if it's in your notes and you're going to get to it.
But go for it.
I think when a lot of the time women are told that they can't have a VBAC because whatever, but often women's choices are limited, and it's not because some big bad consultant has said, no, you are not allowed to have a VBAC. That's not how it looks. How it looks for the majority of the time is, oh, you want to have a vaginal birth after you've had a cesarean. Well, yeah, you can do that. It's just that, you'd have to be on a monitor the full time. Obviously, you can't have a baby at home because there's an increased risk of your scar rupturing. So you would be in hospital and you would be on the monitor, obviously, for safety. And we'd have to do more of this and more of these interventions. And then you just go, oh, well, that isn't the birth that I want. So in order to meet the need for control that we have as humans, we tend to go then the other way and go into options that are not ideal for us, and options that are not even plan B or plan C, things that we really, really don't want because of how it's been presented to us. So when we talk about our choices being restricted, it's not always the being met like a brick wall with a no, in which case no one's allowed to do that anyway. But often it's just, it's coercion. It's making the options that they want you to do that make their lives easier seem more easy, more tempting, more easily to control, and it's just not the case. So that's why we wanted to talk about it a bit more as well.
Definitely. That it is that, like, a little bit at a time, that it then slips through the net. You don't notice it happening. And when you're presented with intervention A and intervention B, it sounds like you've got options, but then they're missing all of the other options that don't involve intervention, like doing nothing. So yeah, part of taking back that control and being on your own, like your own path, your own flow, is about knowing all of your options and feeling able to question what you're being told. And it looks so funny on the back because it's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is the first time I've seen Ellie's laptop as a tablet, and I'm very impressed. And it's touchscreen. It's crazy. That's not why we're here.
Now you're all assembled. Let's talk about. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it's called. Let's take a look.
Amazing. So what are some of the things that can come up as hurdles that, yeah, you might not notice are restricting your options, but are kind of the norm for women who are planning a VBAC? Let's just refer to our notes.
Yes.
Consultant-led care, I think, is a big one.
Because they don't see normal birth. So
No.
they can't speak to normal birth. They can't talk about the conditions that are right for normal birth. They just see births that have already gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a normal birth, you're just waiting for something to go wrong. So you can't talk to honestly and openly, and you can't get all the information from a consultant because they don't have the knowledge of normal birth.
Mm-hmm. And so many women are just told that that's what is going to happen, that they're going to be consultant led, and that's that. And that, I mean, that should be an option. It is an option, but it's not presented that way. So if you find yourself being told that this is the path you're on, you're being consultant led, and that's just what has to happen because that's our policy, question it. Ask what that involves. Is that going to benefit you? If it's because what comes with consultant-led care is more appointments, more checks, more scans, more measurements. And are those things going to benefit you? Are they helping you on the path to your planned VBAC? Or are they just a barrier? Are they a box that you're supposed to be ticking? Are they giving information that actually isn't going to help you, but is going to make it easier to be emotionally coerced into making decisions that you're not happy with?
If you're not sure what the answer is to that, ask yourself how you feel about your next appointment and why you're going. And if the answer is because I am gonna put my foot down. I am going to, at the end of my pregnancy, I am going to say that I want a home birth. If you ask yourself, why aren't you saying that now? And it's because you feel scared, or because you're saving up that great big no where you put your foot down. Like, where's that going to come from if you don't practice it now? I would say as soon as you realise that something isn't working for you, something isn't serving you, that you feel bad about going, that you're doing it out of people pleasing, or to be a good girl, or to jump through a hoop to prove to them that, you know, your baby isn't big, or you aren't too old, or, you know, you're trying to prove something to somebody. That's the time to do something and to act upon that. Because if you do say early on, actually, I don't want to be consultant-led anymore, I want to be midwife-led, then it makes it easier down the line to say, actually, no, I don't believe that my baby's big, and I don't need a growth scan to prove that to me or to you. And then further down the line to say, you can't speak to me like that in my home, and I'm going to call on a midwife. Mm-hmm. It's saying those no's makes it easier to say no. It doesn't work the other way around. We wish that it did, and we all hope that it did, and we all hope that it's there. But the only way that we're going to know is if we actually flex that muscle and we use that skill, and then down the line we can go, well, I've already said no to this, or I've already asked for this thing that is not in the policy, and so I know that I can do that again. I know that I can. I know that it's possible. I know that I can. There's no harm in practicing those skills, not in your pregnancy, not in your birth, not in any part of your life. Mm-hmm. So don't wait, don't hope that it's there. Prove to yourself that it's there.
Mm-hmm. And it really does make a difference. Like once you start saying that, speaking up for what it is that you actually want and what you don't want, it, like you said, it gets so much easier to just do it again. And the power that comes with that is, it's immense. You can't equal it. So it's really important, because it is so much more difficult to do it the other way around, to say yes for now and then say no later on. It's really hard, because you start doubting whether you even need to say no. Maybe you should just keep saying yes because it's easier. But if it's not serving you, don't do it, because it's not without risk. Things like growth scans, for example, we've seen so many women, strong, confident women, who know what they want, and they know that the information that you get from growth scans isn't really helpful. They know that it's not accurate, but they're quite happy to go to tick the box and to see their baby on a screen. But what comes with that is information that is only 50% accurate, so may as well be a guess. But it comes with the authority of the midwife, and then the emotive language that's used around it, the scare tactics. In this example of, shoulder dystocia, for example, there's so much that comes with it that is really hard to protect against. And once you're in that situation, it's really hard to then say, look, I actually am okay with just taking that information, and I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's much easier to say no in the first place and just not go. So yeah, practicing that, figuring out what feels right and what doesn't, and what the actual risks are to your confidence, your space that you've created around your pregnancy, and the image that you have of your birth. Anything that's going to jeopardize that needs to be considered a risk, and to be weighed up against any potential benefits of that thing. So being consultant-led comes with a lot of those things, and a lot of opportunities for them to put doubt in your mind. And with that added to the fears that might come from the previous section, that maybe there's doubt there in your body. Maybe you had a section because your labour was going on for a long time. And with that has come the idea that your body would never have got to the end of labour. And that's just not true. But the idea of it is so powerful, and it makes women doubt themselves and their bodies. And maybe their baby was too big, or, and there's so many doubts that are planted in the previous pregnancy, but then also at every opportunity in the current pregnancy. And those doubts are not harmless. They have a huge impact. So protecting yourself from those seeds of doubt can be hard, but beneficial, I would say. Yeah, we did a video on seeking external reassurance, and I think we go into that a lot more in that video. But the sense that, even by looking to a scan to tell you that your baby's fine is undermining your connection with your baby, your intuition, because if there was something wrong, you would be the first one to know, way faster than any monitor or scan. So just, if you can, sit with that feeling and try and figure out what you need to stay in touch with your intuition and your baby, and then work from there. Block out anything that's going to take away from that, because that's the most important thing. Your intuition is what keeps you safe, and there's so many things that can interrupt that and make it really, really quiet. So being aware of those things, and then being proactive, because like Ellie said before, thinking about how you feel about your next appointment, but also if you've already had one, think about how that felt, because so many women come out of appointments feeling worse than when they went in. And that shouldn't be the intention, but it begs the question. So yeah, if you don't want to be consultant led, if you don't want extra appointments, measurements, scans, say no at the earliest opportunity, before the seeds of doubt are planted and you start thinking that you actually need all of those things to know whether you're okay or not. Yeah. I feel like I went off there.
Went off my board. And if your intuition says to go and get more scans, then listen to that. Like, your intuition is always gonna keep you safe, but it's sounds like a tap dancer. Yeah, following your intuition, yeah, no matter what it says, is not going to lead you wrong. And following it when things are good, when you connect and you go, yeah, I feel fine, knowing what that feels like, so that your intuition isn't just this. You're not just listening for an alarm all the time. You know what it feels like when things are good, and that's your intuition as well. How do I feel? Yeah, I feel fine. Right, recognizing that is feedback as well. That is valuable feedback, because then you have something to contrast to. When someone says, "Oh my God, your baby's enormous," then you go, "No, actually, my baby feels fine. I feel fine," because you are one and the same. But yeah, it is always okay to check in, with that. You're not just listening for an alarm bell.
It's a good practice all the time, whether you're pregnant or not. Where's Rosie? I've got her name on the screen. She's not in there. She's hiding. Rosie's a dog, by the way, for anyone who's joined, but she's under a cushion, so she's actually not present right now. Yeah. She doesn't like being live on Facebook. Okay, so something that comes up probably for all women who are planning a VBAC is the talk of uterine rupture. Let's talk about that. It sounds terrifying, and yeah, the concept is terrifying, but it's very uncommon, but it's used all of the time as an excuse to do growth scans, to do GD tests, to induce continuous monitoring, yeah, to induce labour, even though that increases the risk. It's like a golden bullet. Like, if someone says to you, there's a chance that your uterus might rupture and that would be catastrophic, then it's going to play on your mind, whether it's 1% likely or less, which is true. But that's the thing, is that that information, the actual statistic isn't shared that much, but the idea that it's possible and more likely because you've had a caesarean, whether they caused that caesarean or not. And that is one of the seeds of doubt that is planted super early on and is used as a reason for all of these extra things.
And the irony is, the caesarean is a uterine rupture.
It is, and a pretty extensive one.
The biggest one you could possibly get.
Yeah, but it's okay because it's where all the medical people are. So yeah, that is something that will come up if you are planning a VBAC, even if you've just had a caesarean and they're telling you this already. It's going to come up, but there's information out there that, you know, with the actual statistics and how unlikely it is to happen. But also, like we were saying, that up-to-date information that you're getting from yourself, if that were to happen, you would be the first to know. It's not going to be picked up by a machine quicker than you will know about it. So does any of that help? Does any of the being in hospital, having continuous monitoring, having growth scans, does any of that reduce the risk? No, it doesn't. So is it beneficial? That's for you to decide. But yeah, it's one of those emotive scare tactics that works really well, and will continue to work because they're not giving you all of the information. And when it comes to things like having growth scans because they think that you've grown an enormous baby and that you now need to be induced because your baby's going to be too big, and maybe that will increase the risk of a uterine rupture, without mentioning the fact that induction increases that risk because you're forcing the body into labour when it wasn't ready.
It's not recommended to induce based on the baby's predicted size as well.
No, exactly. And
sorry about that. Can you stop shouting, please? Oh, May, it's just a cool dude. Step down. May, come here, please.
Cancel security.
Yeah. Sit down. It's open now.
I can't remember what I was going to say. It's alright. Just take a moment to pause. Oh no. Oh, the notes are gone. I feel like we're covering a lot of things that are also relevant to any birth, whether you've had a C-section or not. But the point of the video is that these things come up more often when they have you've had a C-section before in the back pocket to use as a scare tactic, whether that is you've had a C-section, so this is more likely, or you've never given birth vaginally before, so we don't know if you can, which also comes up in first-time pregnancies, even though if we couldn't give birth having never done it before, then we'd be pretty screwed from the very beginning. So we know that it's not women's bodies that are the problem. We know that it's the interventions and the treating women like a bomb that's about to go off. It's just not conducive to normal labour and birth. So think about what it is that you need to give birth normally, and that is privacy, feeling safe, feeling unobserved, and to not have anyone poking and prodding you. So the way that women who are planning a VBAC are treated, they're put on this conveyor belt that is leading them to being in hospital, being on continuous monitoring, so restricted movement, being poked and prodded very often, and having lots of people observing them because they're scared that something's going to happen. So it's no wonder that the success rate, I'm saying success because it's an awful way of saying it, because really it's the rate of support from maternity services, and that is low, and that's what causes the problems. So yeah, think about what is going to make your vaginal birth more likely. Where do you need to be? Where do you feel safe? What do you need around you? Who do you not need to be there? And what do you not need in your pregnancy and your birth? And then make those decisions and act on them as early as possible. If you choose to engage in maternity services, and if you're planning on having a midwife at your birth, whether you're at home or not, well, I guess if you're not at home, then there's going to be a midwife there. But you know the gist, right? Yeah, if you're planning on having a medical member of staff there, write a really assertive birth plan about what you want and what you do not want, and make it known ahead of time, because there's so many things that can interrupt labour and birth, and all of those things take you further away from your intuition and that connection, which is the thing that's keeping you safe. So yeah, I think I've said the same thing like 3 times, but
think about what you believe about birth. What do you believe to be true about birth, and who's going to reflect that back to you? And who's going to make you doubt it? Sorry, like if you believe that birth is a normal bodily function, then plan for your birth to be a normal bodily function. Only have people around you who believe it's a normal bodily function.
So
birth is with it, don't we?
Yes, we do. I think we've already talked about it, like the risks that come with the seeking external reassurance, getting the extra tests and things, and how it doesn't really save lives. It makes labour and birth more complicated. But yeah, the barriers are very similar in all pregnancies, I think. If you're choosing to engage with maternity services, it's just the added layer of that experience you've had previously, the fears that are there, and playing on that, and using VBAC as an excuse to do all of these extra things, as if it's a really dangerous choice that you're making, and it's just not. I don't know if there was anything else to add. I know we've got like some specifics.
We can talk about practically about what to do if you are consultant life and you don't want to be.
Tell them.
Yeah. Is that simple?
It should be that simple. It'd be nice if it was always that simple. But sometimes it's not. And if you let's imagine that you've been told that you've been booked in for a consultant appointment that you didn't know about, but it's been booked for you, and it's on this date at this time, and you should be there. So you can call them and say, no thanks, I didn't ask to see a consultant. I don't feel like I need to see a consultant, and I don't wish to. And they should just cancel that appointment for you then and there and not bother you again. Don't know if that's how it works. So
I think generally how it works is they'll say, oh, you can totally cancel that appointment. But you just need a different appointment to talk about why you want to cancel that appointment. Don't fall for it, it's a trap.
Or if you say, I want a home birth, and they say, oh yeah, that's great. You'll just have to speak to these people about your home birth plans. And it's not really an opportunity for you to talk about your plans. It tends to be an opportunity for them to try and talk to you about it. So consider that as well when you're deciding whether or not to accept those appointments, because you don't need anyone's permission. So if that's what you want to gain from it, remember that you don't need that. You are the one that decides. You just need, well, you don't even need them to support you, but if you want them to be there, they just need to be aware of it. So you can, if you don't deal well on the phone or in person, or you don't want to, it's can be really helpful to write to the head of midwifery and tell them, if you don't want to be consultant led, tell them that. If you want a home birth and you're not being supported, tell them and say, this is what I want, how are you going to support me? Because it's not about you making compromises or jumping through hoops or ticking boxes, because they are their hoops and their boxes, and that's their problem. It's not a you problem. So yeah, it's the responsibility is on them to provide you with the support and care that you want. So writing can be really helpful. Then there's a paper trail for a start. Midwives tend to think a bit more before they say things when it's in writing, because it's there. You can refer back to it. So yeah, that can be a really good option. And head of midwifery tends to be a good place to go to because they have a bit more power, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, midwives on like the ground level are following policies, and it's not always within their power to say, yeah, this is the policy, but it's fine if you don't want to follow that. I mean, it's always fine because policy is not the law, and it's the policies are for them, not for you. But the head of midwifery is a good point of contact if you want something different and you just want to get it like in writing, or you don't want to be bothered with it again, because quite often women will say no to things and then it'll come up again and again, and it's that repetition that eventually wears women down because you just want some peace. So yeah, that's a good way of declining anything that isn't serving you. What else?
I don't know, but that could be the answer to a lot of the different scenarios that we could come up with.
Yeah, sure.
I was talking to the head of midwifery about your plans. You know, that's like the opposite of, yeah, sure, that's fine. You just have to just come to a birth options meeting and we'll talk about it then. It's not about normal birth, and it's also not about your options. It's crap.
Yeah. Writing your birth plan and send that to the head of midwifery if you want, because the sooner you, if this is all if you want them involved at all, because you don't have to. If they're not supportive, you can move to a different hospital, or you can choose to not engage with the hospital at all and not have them there.
You can complain.
Yeah.
Lots of women are afraid of complaining because they think it'll make their care worse. But if you're needing to complain, you're already getting bad care. What do you have to lose? And the births that I've been to where women have got something that is, you know, out of the norm, like waiting a few hours for placenta, for example, that's because she's complained. She's made herself known as a force to be reckoned with ahead of her birth, and it has not backfired at all, as much as they might have feared that it was going to.
Yeah, unfortunately, the maternity system relies on women who don't know their rights and their options and are quite happy to just go along with whatever pathway they've been put on. Because that, I mean, it makes their life easier, doesn't it? Because they're staffed to a certain degree and they have policies that work within these bounds. So yeah, it's easier if women don't know that they have other options. But they also, what factors into those policies is the risk of litigation. So if they recognise a woman as someone who does know her rights, does know that she can ask for things outside of policy or guidelines, they realise and recognise that actually this is a woman who could probably sue them. And as much as no one wants to play that game, sometimes it's you know, it's a card that can be played and will lead to individualised care, because that is a huge part of hospital policies, and a lot of the decisions made by the maternity services are based on that. So it's okay to use that to your advantage.
As they do. I feel like you've got lots more to say.
I feel like I have, but also I keep remembering that this video is specifically about VBAC, and so much of this is can be applied to any situation, and I guess that's kind of the point, because a vaginal birth is just birth at the end of the day. That is how our bodies are designed to give birth, and
it's the default position.
Yeah, it shouldn't be this big label and pathway that also is the opposite of normal birth. So yeah, I guess
let's do another video next week on a different thing.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do another one.
If anyone has any topics that they want to talk about specifically, please do send us your suggestions. We have a list and we are trying to work through it slowly but surely, but we'd be happy to add to the list, so please do let us know. Also, if there's anything on VBAC that we haven't mentioned that you'd want to talk more about, please comment or send us a message, because we'd love to go into more detail about specific things if that's going to be beneficial. We want to hear from you because that's why we're here. So, yeah.
If you want to talk to us privately.
Yes. If you want to talk to us privately, send us a message on Facebook, or you can email us. Our email address is hello@greatermanchesterdoulas.com. We also have community groups, which you're welcome to join. They're all on Zoom at the moment, but we're going to be, hopefully, when we have space, going back to some in person as well. So it'd be nice to meet you in real life. Yeah, I think that's it.
Have we got any comments with you?
Oh, that's a very good question. Ooh, we have comments from us. It's Laurie.
Oh, wait.
Hey Laurie, sorry we totally couldn't see the comments because we were on full screen. Do you think there are situations where consultant-led care is necessary or useful? It's a very good question.
I guess that's up to the individual, because what they like to do is to make blanket statements about what is safe and what's risky and what's necessary, and it's always relative. You know, they like to assume that some risks are just inherently present, but it's just life. Like, there's nothing that is inherently safe and inherently risky. If you think about anything long enough, you know, is driving a car safe? If you really think about it, it's terrifying, and none of us would drive cars anymore. I don't drive a car. I've tried, and I decided it's too risky for me. But I'll get in a car with somebody else who I trust. There is no safe and there is no risky. So is it ever necessary? Is not for anybody else to decide except for the woman.
That was a brilliant answer. I don't think I have anything to add.
There are specific conditions where having, I don't know. You know what, I'm going to say that back. No, I don't think that inherently there are.
I think, yeah, deciding whether a consultant is necessary to your pregnancy and birth journey is based on what you want to get from it and whether those things are necessary, because the standard like consultant-led care package isn't necessarily going to be beneficial to everyone and probably comes with a lot of risks to confidence and such, like we talked about. But it's completely personal, and yeah, there's no good answer to that. Ellie's answer was good, about risk and safety and how actually no one gets to decide that for you. So it's your responsibility and decision to make, as to whether it is going to serve you or make things more difficult. Oh, we got another question. How do women? No, it's not. It's a Facebook user.
I'll take this one.
How do women make that decision when they are reliant on the experts to give them the relevant info? Yes, I love that you put experts in the quotation marks, because you're the expert, and that's the thing that is missed when we are consultant-led or even midwifery-led, because we're constantly looking to Rosie's not pulled her weight in this conversation. I agree, actually. Yeah. She's having a nap, I think. Yeah, the fact that we look at those people as experts when it's our body that is doing the growing and the birthing, it says a lot about the way that society views birth and women. And I think it can be really hard to find the information that you want if you're looking for something that's measured or statistics or something that's tangible, but knowing that actually you have all of the information inside, and your intuition is what's going to keep you safe and give you the information that you need. So if you're worried about, you know, the what ifs, which come up a lot in, especially for women who are planning a VBAC because of the experience that they've had, when the what ifs come up, knowing that if something was wrong, you would have that information straight away before anything else, before the experts, and you will know what to do with that information. It's hard to find that trust and to have that trust that you will know and you'll be able to hear that voice. But the looking to the experts for that information makes your voice quieter. It makes your intuition harder to listen to. So I would say, to answer your question, if you're looking for statistics and that kind of information, probably don't get it from maternity services. Ask other women. Ask women who have given birth unassisted. Their stories are full of innate wisdom and that knowing that things are fine, or that knowing that things aren't okay. So listening to other women is huge. Listening to your own intuition is where you'll find the information that you need. I don't know if that answered your question, actually, but let me know if it didn't. They are all the comments. So we are going to head off, but thank you to whoever Facebook user is and Laurie for watching. No thanks to Rosie. No, Rosie is sacked. But we will be back another day with another topic. But as we said, please fire any topics our way. We'd love to talk about anything and everything that comes to mind. So yeah, I think that's it. Bye. Bye.